So while it is true that you could potentially look at the Ottawa Senators, Zach McEwen, Curtis McDermott trade as bad news for the Montreal Canadiens, we have ourselves some very legitimate good news in regards to the Habs. And it all comes to us via a few sources, admittedly. We're not just going to be looking at this tweet here. We're going to be looking at some other stuff, but this is what Canadiens fans have been wanting to see, especially after seeing some of the big contracts handed out to young defensemen like Jackson Lacombe yesterday and Luke Hughes the other day. Luke Hughes, Lacombe, Lane Hutson? Is he next? Well, this is what Elliotte Friedman said. He doesn't think 8x9-ish is too far off for Lane Hutson. Friedman thinks the Habs want Hutson to take a little less. Hutson and his camp would like a bit more. They're on the 5-yard line in these negotiations, but those last 5 yards are always the hardest to get. And the main question that is being asked here, Jackson Lacombe got 8x9. Isn't Hutson better and worth more? At least 8x10? And that is a very good question, David Mac Isaac. I think... I just realized what your gosh darn name was. David Mac Isaac. Okay, that's kind of funny. It's true that Lane Hutson is a better defender. He's a better player. He produces more points than both Lacombe and Luke Hughes. And he's the youngest of the three. Sure, he's not as big as either of them, but he still is there, and he's coming off of a season where he had 66 points in 82 games played. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other deals before diving into why things could be shaking down the way they are. Luke Hughes is a year older, 6'2", 198, and he had 2 40-point years. He signed on $9 million a year for 7 years as a total contract length. Meanwhile, Jackson Lacombe, he's 24 years old. He got the full 8-year treatment, also making $9 million a year. He just had a 40-point season as well. From 17 points to 43, sure. These two guys are in very similar point production territory, but Jackson Lacombe is 2 years older. Lane Hutson's the youngest of the three, so in what world is him getting 8x9, similar to these two guys, reasonable? Well, apparently it's this world. Because a new article from Marco D'Amico goes out there and talks about how Lane Hutson's deal, it doesn't need to hit $10 million a year. Montreal has ways around taxes, as Jeff Gordon put it, to boost Hutson's take-home pay while keeping the AAV near $9 million. This article from D'Amico will go out there and discuss all of it. So I'm going to go out there and leave a link in the description to this piece on D'Amico's rg.org page, How Canadiens Can Get Creative with Hutson Extension to Lower the Cap Hit. Here are the key takeaways for this piece. Firstly, what makes Hutson's extension negotiations different from Lacombe and Hughes? Hutson is a 10.2 CRFA, meaning he has no arbitration rights and cannot sign an offer sheet. Unlike Lacombe, he isn't close to UFA status, and unlike Luke Hughes, he doesn't have family leverage or immediate playoff urgency working in his favor. Okay, look, the family leverage thing, I don't know how full that is, but there has been an idea floating around there that says, hey, Jack Hughes is underpaid, so Luke Hughes needs to get a little bit more. The family tax. Debate whether or not that's real in the comment section below. Another takeaway from this article, why might Hutson's next deal stay closer to $9 million than surpass 10? Despite his Calder Trophy season and star power in Montreal, Hutson's limited leverage allows the Canadiens to keep his AAV in line with recent comparables. Montreal can argue that his situation doesn't justify pushing beyond the $9 million benchmark. How can the Canadiens still make Hutson feel like he's winning in negotiations? Montreal has tools like heavy signing bonuses and retirement compensation arrangements that boost Hutson's after-tax earnings. Even if the contract matches Hughes or Lacombe on paper, these structures could net Hutson millions more in real dollars. Now, in regards to retirement compensation arrangements, RCAs, there was a reply from Puckpedia that went out there and explained that RCAs are basically a given for players playing in Canada to reduce the negative tax impact for players compared to other players. Places, excuse me. It doesn't put the player on an equal footing as playing in a tax-free state, it just reduces the negative impact of the higher tax rate. It also means less cash available for players, and there's uncertainty with the future tax treatment of the RCA. There's also the fact that as an American dude combined with the tax treaty, he's getting a dollar-for-dollar credit on his U.S. tax return for anything he pays in Canada, effectively taxed as U.S. rates rather than Canadians. Now, there are a number of hurdles to dive into to understand this fully, and I don't think we're going to be able to communicate that in this video, but let's just go out there and take a stab at Marco D'Amico's article. Take a look at this right here. By signing him for 8 years, Anaheim not only secured her top blue liner Jackson Lacombe, but also bought 6 full UFA seasons, premium years that rarely come cheap. Lacombe, being on the older side of RFAs, had much more leverage due to arbitration and just being closer to full autonomy, said an NHL source. Had he jumped right out of his entry-level contract at 22 or 23, maybe he signs closer to Brock Faber at 8.5. Luke Hughes' negotiation unfolded under different circumstances. As a 10.2 CRFA, he had no arbitration rights and could not sign an offer sheet, which on paper limited his leverage. But his camp held 2 powerful cards: the Devils' urgent need to ice him with an injured defense and the long-term pull of the Hughes family. Jack Hughes is signed for another 5 years in New Jersey. Quinn Hughes is under contract in Vancouver, but only about 21 months from UFA status, and all 3 brothers have been open about their desire to one day play together. The family factor, combined with immediate roster pressure, left Tom Fitzgerald in a difficult spot. Hughes' camp pushed for either a shorter 5-year deal that lined up with Jack's UFA window or a full-term deal at $9 million AAV. Fitzgerald chose the latter, securing Luke beyond Jack's current deal while keeping alive the possibility of luring Quinn in the future. The Hughes family basically backed the Devils into a poor position from which to negotiate, said an NHL source familiar with the situation. Not only were you negotiating for Luke Hughes, but you had to consider the impact it could have on Jack now and potentially Quinn down the road. To secure Luke long-term, beyond when Jack's deal expires, would give you emotional leverage to retain him at that point as well. Now, Hutson doesn't have a brother. Okay, he has some brothers, but they're not playing in Montreal like Jack and Luke Hughes are. What brings the spotlight firmly back to Montreal, whose looming extension is quickly becoming one of the most intriguing negotiations in the NHL, is the status here. Like Luke Hughes, Hutson is a 10.2 CRFA, meaning he has no arbitration rights and cannot receive an offer sheet. That technical detail strips him of the leverage that helped Jackson Lacombe secure $9 million from Anaheim and allowed Hughes to push New Jersey towards his asking price. Hutson does have star power, though. Unlike New Jersey, however, the Canadiens are not under immediate playoff pressure. Unlike Anaheim, however, Montreal's timeline is not dictated by the risk of losing a player to UFA status in the near future. Hutson's camp may point to a $9 million benchmark like the past 2 contracts, but Kent Hughes is known for being a disciplined negotiator who rarely bends to market hysteria. The likeliest outcome is a deal that threads the needle, rewarding Hutson's superstar trajectory without overshooting the realities of his RFA status. While fans may clamor for numbers north of 10 or 11, Montreal can credibly argue that Hutson's leverage is limited compared to Lacombe or Hughes. His contract could ultimately serve as a balance between paying for future dominance and maintaining cost control within a roster that is still under construction. There's a lot of talk that went into players around the league. The agents and people are siding about Montreal. Gordon said this summer in an interview, "The taxes, yeah, we get that. It's definitely a thing, but there are ways around that. There are ways we can do certain things in Quebec and Montreal to help alleviate the tax issues. But we're excited about Montreal and where we're going, and I feel like around the league, people are taking notice." This is where we dive into signing bonuses, RCAs. I mean, there's a lot to dive into in regards to this, so I'm going to leave a link in the description. This article could honestly take up 3 videos worth, but ultimately, based off of these factors here, from bonuses to retirement compensation agreements, it does seem like the numbers could work out for Hutson to sign a comparable $9 million deal, or something just a little bit more than that, to Hughes and Lacombe. You can go out there and read the numbers. I'm not going to try to explain it here. It's just a simple YouTube video after all. But Marco D'Amico has the scoop. I want you to check out his article to get everything fully identified here. But also, if you enjoyed this video at any point, feel free to hit the like button. If you didn't, the dislike button's there for you too. Comments help out with the algorithm, so feel free to get involved. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.